But so welcome everybody. My name is Christian Zuber. I'm the Vice President of Enrollment Services and Marketing here at Wilkes University. And I'm pleased to be your host today for our financial aid session. And we've got two experts with you, totally financial aid. And they're going to spend some time giving you an overview of the things you really need to know as admitted students and families. And then we'll certainly have lots of times for questions. I would say please make sure that you use the Q&A icon to ask us any questions that you have, and then we'll do our very best to answer as many as we can throughout the session. And that little Q&A box might be on the bottom of your screen, at the top, or on the side, depending on what type of device you're viewing us with today. So without further ado, I'd like to have my panelists from financial aid introduce themselves. We could start with Jane, and then we'll go from there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jane Dessoye, and I am the Executive Director of Student Financial Services.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Christy Snedeker, and I'm the Associate Director of Student Financial Services at Wilkes.
And we are here to talk about our most exciting topic in the world, financial aid. All right, so before we begin with the main topic, the what's next from a financial aid perspective, what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of background that tells you what should have happened to date, so that we'll then be moving forward and let you know what to expect from this point forward. Now, first off, this whole process began with a form that I'm certain you are all very familiar with, a free application for federal student aid. If I were able to see your faces, I would probably see grimaces and looks of pain, because that's sometimes what the FAFSA causes families to feel. But for those of you who did complete it, I suspect that you'd agree that it was much more intimidating looking than it ultimately turned out to be. Now, what has happened so far is, had you completed that free application for federal student aid, and I will refer to that form as FAFSA from this point forward and eliminate a good deal of time from the presentation. When the FAFSA was submitted, our office, our Student Financial Services office, basically got to work. The FAFSA is the basis for all other financial aid outside of the academic scholarship that you had already been alerted to from our admissions office. So basically, our job was to fill in the blanks, to tell you, in addition to those great scholarships that you won because of your supreme academic ability, that we're able to tell you what you qualify for in addition from state and federal sources as well as university sources. Now, if you did not get what's called a financial aid notification, a full-blown notification of eligibility, this should definitely prompt a call to the financial services office, because we can easily troubleshoot for you and tell you what exactly may have gone awry. Let me put your minds at ease by telling you that it's certainly not too late. If you have not yet completed the FAFSA form, it is not too late to do so. And because we work on a rolling admissions basis, we also work on a rolling financial aid basis, meaning if you were able to do the FAFSA on the very first day that students were able to actually complete a FAFSA, which was October 1st of 2019, your eligibility for financial aid will be the same had you applied on October 1st as if you applied today or tomorrow. So put your mind at ease if you're thinking, this financial aid notification, I have no idea what this woman is talking about. It's not too late to do a FAFSA that ultimately will result in our completion of a financial aid notification to you. So, Christy, I cannot see your slides.
I am starting up for you, Jane.
Alrighty. Excellent. All right. Just a little background on this financial aid notification that I've already referred to a couple times. The very first source of financial aid on which we hone into are sources of grant money, gift aid that never needs to be repaid. So these are the sources of grants that a student qualifies for over and above the merit-based scholarship that you'd already been notified about through our admissions office. At the time that we do our notification, we are able to make a good faith estimate of what state and federal grants will be. Those of you who reside in the state of Pennsylvania know clearly that the Pennsylvania state budget isn't passed until much later, ideally sometime in May, but there was a time in the not so distant past, just a few years ago, where students had actually begun their freshman year at Wilkes and didn't know until that semester, the entire fall semester had already ended before we found out exactly what the state grant would be. The state grant notification that you received on your financial aid notice or award letter, if anything, is lowballed. So that is an estimate that we provide you, but if anything, that award could go up, maybe modestly, maybe a little more dramatically, but the point is it will go up. Federal Pell Grant did go up by a couple $100 from what your initial notification said. Nothing substantial, nothing significant. And obviously in this financial aid notification, we also looked at every single source of grant money that Wilkes administers. So we went into this whole process with the assumption that you know nothing about financial aid, even though we know very well that you may have older siblings who've gone through college, that your parents have gone through this process before on their behalf. But regardless, if your biggest fear was that you would lose out on some source of financial aid because you didn't know that an application existed or a deadline date existed, or maybe you didn't even know that the source of grant money existed at all, that fear can be dispelled from your mind, because we do very sincerely go into the process with the assumption that you know nothing, and we take it upon ourselves. If you do the FAFSA by this time, last year we were telling you by May 1st, but the state has extended that to May 15th. But I've already told you, you get your FAFSA in now and your evaluation will be the same as if you had done it months and months ago. So scholarships and grants, most desirable form of aid, because obviously they are yours. They are outright gift aid that never needs to be repaid. Next thing that we identified in your financial aid package was the most common type of federal loan. This is a loan that is in the student's name, his or her name. Two different types, subsidized and unsubsidized. I won't bore you with any gruesome details, but suffice it to say that on the subsidized portion, that loan is free and clear until 6 months after the student graduates or drops to less than half-time status. Unsubsidized loan money, on the other hand, does have interest accruing while the student is enrolled. Now, it's still a form of loan money that you can definitely get. The big difference here is that some interest does start to accumulate. Now, at the time that the loan is dispersed, you will be given the option on how you want that interest to be treated. You can either pay the interest on a quarterly basis while you're enrolled, or you can choose to allow the Department of Education to do what's called capitalize the interest. What that means is they tack the interest charge onto the loan itself, which maybe doesn't sound too gruesome. However, consider, by allowing the department to capitalize interest, when you graduate, you will have not only the principal amount of the loan itself to repay, but all of the interest that's been accumulating as you've progressed through the ranks, as you've moved from freshman to sophomore to junior, et cetera. Federal loan, as you would suspect, is a loan program that ultimately needs to be repaid. Next type of aid that we listed on your financial aid notification is a program called work study, and it is exactly what it infers. It allows a student, if they'd like, to accept a job on campus. Now, the jobs ideally are intended to be related to your major, but we have jobs all over the place, all over campus, in the library, in our major offices like student financial services, admissions, et cetera. We actually administer two different types of work study programs. The first is federally funded, at least partially federally funded. If a student qualified to participate in the federal work study program, that aid option was definitely listed on your financial aid award letter. If it was not listed, What that means is you did not qualify according to the federal rules. You were ineligible. However, and this is a big however, the university has such a need for work-study students that even if the student does not qualify for the federal program, there is an institutionally funded program that essentially allows us to hire whoever the heck we want. So basically, even though you may not have qualified for a federal work-study program, doesn't necessarily mean that if you would like to work on campus, that wouldn't be an option. We can certainly hire you through institutional payroll. Sometime in the summer, you'll receive notification from the office that actually administers the work-study program, the federal work-study program, telling you that as an incoming student, here are the positions that are posted and available for you to review, and ultimately you can apply through the portal as well. Now, on the award letter, we did list work-study earning potentials, and the important words here are the earning potentials. When we calculate work-study in a financial aid package, we will list it if a student qualifies, but I want to delay for just a second to talk about how we treat those work-study earnings. We actually pay students by check for the actual hours that they work. That being said, on the third part of our financial aid notification, the award notification itself, where we actually do the math for you, we tell you for the fall semester, for the spring semester, for the full year, these are the total anticipated charges. This is the total anticipated aid. In that total anticipated aid number, we do not include work-study earnings for two reasons. One, we don't know if you'll want to accept a job on campus. Maybe you'll think, I'd like to get used to college level work before I dive into a job on top of that. Secondly, for what I've just mentioned, we pay you by check. You can choose then how to spend that money. It's absolutely not necessary for you to turn those work-study earnings towards your tuition balances. You can use that money however you wish. That could be your pizza money on the weekend, your movie money, whatever you choose to use it for. That is your money. But that's the reason why we don't list it as, we list it as an aid source, but we do not list it as the amount of financial aid that's available to you for payment of your balance. You choose how to use that money. So that is, in a nutshell, what should have happened so far. You should at least have some sense of what your balance will be for each of the semesters and for the academic year in general. Now we'll get into the meat of the matter, and that is the option for payment of balances. At the time that we sent out students financial aid notifications, we knew that you and your family wanted the numbers. Show me what this is going to cost me. Didn't talk in very detailed terms about what options then are for payment of those remaining balances. That then is the purpose of this discourse. The first option that families had, and actually, as I mentioned, the aid that was listed on your financial aid notification did include your eligibility for subsidized and unsubsidized loan. So when we calculated full year balance for you, we've already factored in your borrowing potential through this loan program. And these are a little bit of the specifics of the federal direct loan program. The interest rate on those programs is 4.53%. It's set every July 1st by the Department of Education. So what you're seeing here is the current interest rate. It will fluctuate, it will change come July 1st. But the history has been over the last couple of years that the interest rate, if anything, has been going down by a tad every academic year. If it does grow at all, I assure you it will not be a significant growth. And if anything, given the status quo today, we expect that it may decrease by a little bit. Origination fee, this is a crazy kind of fee. It's charged on the front end by the Department of Education. It's exactly 1.059%. God knows where the department gets these numbers, but regardless, that is the origination fee for next year. What that means is the Department of Education will take that fee off the top of the loan. The borrowing limit as a first-year student is $5,500 through the subsidized and unsubsidized federal direct loan. The net amount of that loan, after that weird origination fee comes off, will be more like $5,442, 1.059% of $5,500. When we, on your award letter, calculated your financial aid for the semesters and the academic year, we already factored in that origination fee. So the bottom line number that you see assumes the fact that you will not see a full $5,500 loan. It will be more like $5,442. In order to actually receive the subsidized and or unsubsidized loan, and it is at your discretion to accept either or both, you will need to do two things. And the you that I'm talking to here is you, the student, not you, the parent. You must complete a master promissory note and entrance counseling, both of which can be completed at www.studentloans.gov. As a first-year borrower, probably this is the first time you've borrowed money from any place, much less the Department of Education for educational expenses. The Master Promissory Note and Entrance Counseling essentially gives you a summary of the rights and responsibilities as a brand new loan recipient, someone who's never borrowed money before. For the Master Promissory Note and Entrance Counseling for federal direct loans, it is a one and done for your undergraduate career, meaning while you do need on the front end to go into studentloans.gov, you'll only need to do that one time. That loan, that Master Promissory Note and Entrance Counseling will carry you through your entire undergraduate career, meaning you'll never need to do that again. Each year as you progress through the ranks and we reevaluate eligibility for financial aid, our notification to you as a sophomore, a junior, a senior will most definitely include your borrowing potential through this federal direct loan program, which incidentally is $6,500 as a sophomore, $7,500 as each of the junior and senior years, the final 2 years of study. The offer will be made. You don't need to accept the loans as you progress through the ranks. It's not a question of accept it as a freshman and never be offered it again. None of that will happen. Each year, you'll be offered the potential, the opportunity to accept the loans that are being offered to you, or if you don't need them, most certainly to decline them. Next option that would be open to the parent of the student. This is the parent equivalent of the federal direct loan, called a federal parent plus loan. Now that interest rate is a little bit scary to us, as it may be to your parents. Looks a little high to us, and it has been going up a little bit as the years have progressed. 7.08% is the rate through June 30th. Much like the federal direct loan rate will be set on July 1st, so will the parent plus loan interest rate, but it's something that we'll be sharing. We'll share out with families who may potentially be interested in the Parent Plus loan. Like the federal direct loan, Parent Plus loan charges that crazy origination fee, a little bit higher than it is for the federal direct loan. And again, another reason why we have some pause when we look at federal Parent Plus loans, both in terms of interest rate and origination fee, that can really stack up, because the borrowing limit through the Plus loan program is the difference between total educational expenses, and by that I mean tuition, fees, room, board, which is your meal plan, books, supplies, transportation. That number minus other financial aid equals the borrowing potential through the Plus loan. And you can see, even if you do some quick math in your head, that number can be rather significant, and now they're charging you an origination fee on top of that. If a parent does in fact wish to pursue the Parent Plus loan, they, the parent, must complete a master promissory note completed at the very same site at which the student completed their own federal direct loan promissory note and entrance counseling that I've just talked about. The master promissory note for the parent does get completed at studentloans.gov. Unlike the federal direct loan, that's an automatic annual offer. That's not the case with the Parent Plus loan. Every year, if a parent chooses to pursue a Parent Plus loan, they must reapply at studentloans.gov. So something important to plant away in the back of your brain for future reference. Now we'll move on. Because the interest rate and the origination fee on a Parent Plus loan is, in our estimation, as I've mentioned before, just a tad high, there are other options that families can pursue. Now, private/alternative loans are essentially loans that the student, him or herself, can pursue, but with a creditworthy cosigner. So while the student themselves are the primary holders of the loan, they will be required to have a creditworthy cosigner. That cosigner can be anyone. It can be the parent, if the parent would like to do that. It can be anyone, not even a blood relative, can cosign a private or alternative loan for a student. Because there are so many banks, so many lenders that are not just willing, but very eager to get this type of loan business, because they realize 4 years hence, they will have a college graduate who is very marketable, who's holding this loan from their bank, and now are in a position to repay it because of that marketability. That being said, their interest rates can be very competitive, especially when compared to the Federal Plus loan. Now, as I mentioned, there are so many banks. What we have tried to do to make this process a little bit easier on the families, at a site called elmselect.com, we've provided families with the 14 or maybe 15 lenders with which our students have dealt successfully and happily in terms of interest rates and repayment terms, those kinds of things. On Elm Select, we've given families the opportunity to do some comparison shopping, so to speak. They're able to view the interest rates, the ranges, minimum, maximum. The rate itself will ultimately be based on the credit of the cosigner, which makes perfect sense, because as a 17 or 18-year-old, it's unlikely that you yourself have any credit, much less extraordinarily good credit. So the rate's based on the creditworthiness of the cosigner. You're able to look then at the rates. Some lenders, many lenders actually, offer perks associated at the time of repayment. So for instance, some lenders will tell you this is your interest rate while you're enrolled in college, but upon program completion, if you, for instance, make 12 consecutive timely monthly payments, that interest rate will drop by 1%, 1.5%, etc. So there are a good number of perks associated with repayment once a student does go into repayment. Actually, there's one loan out there that will give a student a break on the interest rate because they get their college degree. It's as simple as that. You graduate from this program and your interest rate will drop. Another benefit of Elm Select, other than giving you the opportunity to choose a couple lenders and do some side-by-side comparisons, once you, the student, decide which lender looks the best to you, the most desirable, you have the opportunity to actually apply for that loan through that lender, through Elm Select. So it's kind of a one-stop shopping opportunity for families, and something that many of our students avail themselves of, take advantage of. So, final option for payment. Wilkes University does offer a monthly payment plan. The benefit to the monthly payment plan is the fact that it is completely interest-free. There is a $25 enrollment fee if a student decides to enroll in the program for the fall semester, and then another $25 if the student chooses to continue that enrollment into the spring semester. Other than that, there are absolutely no charges, no hidden fees, nothing. It's you take whatever part of your balance that you'd like to budget into equal payments, divide those by 5, and they would stretch through the months of August through December for the fall semester, January through May for the spring semester. Now, I'd like to mention that these programs are not mutually exclusive, meaning a student can opt into both a private or alternative loan and a monthly payment plan. If the family feels, for instance, that they could afford X number of dollars in monthly payments from August to December and enroll in the payment plan for that amount and then borrow the balance through the private loans, I think you get my drift, how you can use those in conjunction with one another, which is a nice benefit too, especially since we so strongly encourage students to borrow as little as they possibly can for obvious reasons. The payment plan is a nice way to make that happen. So that being said, other opportunities for you to help yourself. While I mentioned that we go into the process with the assumption that you know nothing about financial aid, and therefore we show you on the front end, this is exactly what you can expect. The things that you can do to help yourself are these. First off, you hear that millions of dollars in scholarship money go unclaimed every year because students don't really know how the heck to find them. FastWeb is a pretty neat, free, and free is the word I'll stress here. This site allows a student to complete an online autobiographical sketch that talks about things like where you're from, what your high school grades are like, extracurricular activities, the fact that you're an Eagle Scout or a Gold Award winner for Girl Scouts, those kinds of things. When a student completes this online profile and submits it to FastWeb, FastWeb passes it against a national database and gives the student a printable list of scholarships that either closely match or identically match the profile. Now, obviously, it's the student's responsibility to pursue those scholarships, and that's probably where the students in the audience today are saying, I hope my mom and dad didn't hear about FastWeb, but anyway, this is a nice way to identify those scholarships. FastWeb will tell you where they are, filing requirements, deadline dates, the average number of awards made a year, the average value of those awards, everything that you could want to know about an outside scholarship. If you haven't already, I absolutely assure you that you will get offers in your mail, maybe your email, from organizations who are willing to do this kind of service for you for a fee. Right in the garbage. Pay no attention to them. We have had positively no positive experience with an organization that is willing to find you these scholarships for a fee. And we've seen some hefty fees. We've seen $100 for promises that they'll get you scholarship money. Just please steer clear and use free resources like FastWeb. High School Guidance Office. I know that high school guidance offices have different levels of helpfulness, I guess is a tactful way of saying it. But if there is a scholarship donor from your area, who lives in your area, who is looking to encourage a student to go to college where they might not otherwise have gone because perhaps they thought they couldn't afford it, that donor is going to go to the high school guidance office versus the college financial aid office. By the time an application hits our desk, the intent is there. The student is planning to go to college somewhere. That donor is going to go to the high school to say, here's some money for a student who really deserves it, and hopefully this will entice them to pursue a college education. In addition, many civic groups offer awards. No harm in making a phone call. Your local Knights of Columbus, your Lions clubs, those kinds of organizations that are really, because they're so committed to making life better for their community members, they may offer some scholarship money. And potentially places of employment if your parents work at an organization that offer scholarships to their dependents. That's another nice resource to at least investigate. Now, before we pursue into questions and answers, want to talk about some important dates. First thing, our fall billing happens late June, early July. And on there, you will receive an electronic notification that this is your tuition charge, this is your room and board charge, your meal plan, etc. This is the financial aid that we're expecting you to receive. That all happens sometime in the summer. July 1st is the earliest that we would encourage you to do your master promissory note and entrance counseling for federal direct loan purposes, for your parents to do a PLUS loan application master promissory note if that is the option they've chosen for balances, or for you to pursue private loans no earlier than July 1st. August 13th is the date by which a student needs to enroll in the monthly payment plan. The reason being, as I mentioned before, the actual payment starts on the 15th of each month. So August 13th is the date set by the bursar's office. Neglected to mention beforehand that it is incidentally the bursar's office, our billing office, that administers the monthly payment plan, but it's something that you can enroll in electronically on the school's portal. Tuition payments for the fall semester due on August 17th, followed several months later by the spring bills, what your spring tuition balances will be. Enrollment in the payment plan for the spring on the 13th of January, payment for the spring semester by January 5th. And unfortunately, those notices that go out to families in November, it's right around Thanksgiving. It's better, I suppose, than Merry Christmas. Here's your bill for the spring. But regardless, that is the exact timing of our spring billing. And then this is probably a sneaky way for me to get in the fact and reinforce the fact that FAFSA filing is an annual process. Yuck, I know. May 1st, 2021 is the date by which a 2021-2022 FAFSA needs to be submitted. And I tell you, those dates do not roll easily off my tongue. It's so hard for me to imagine that we're talking already about what will be your sophomore year in college. So just a couple minor things that I'll mention before we get into the question and answer portion of the presentation. You may recall when you completed your FAFSA form that the income information, the base year for income that was requested on the FAFSA for the fall of 2020 was 2018 income information, IRS 1040 information. Knowing that a whole heck of a lot could happen, and obviously given the current environment has happened, unfortunately, between 2019 when families file their 2018 taxes and when you sit in the classroom for the very first time or enroll in your first college level class, so much can happen from a financial aid perspective. Know that there is an appeal process if family finances change for any reason, whether it be reduction in the number of work hours or complete loss of employment or crazy things, change in parents' marital status. If there's anything that happens that adversely impacts your family's ability to cover tuition expenses, that should generate an immediate phone call or some type of other contact to the financial aid office. That's important. Now, hopefully, you'll never need to avail yourself of that opportunity, but know that if anything happens, that door will open for you and financial aid eligibility can be completely reevaluated based on whatever the change in circumstances is. Now, finally, there is a process called verification that puts families into a dither, especially if they've had no experience with financial aid before. This is it in a nutshell. 1 in 3 applicants is selected by the Department of Education for this verification process. Now, it is a random sampling, meaning if a family or a student is in fact selected for verification, it in no way is an inference that we're trying to catch you in something, I guess is a way to say it. We're not inferring that you mistakenly or intentionally misreported any information on your FAFSA. It's simply the Department of Education's requirement that we in financial aid verify the accuracy of some of the information that went on the FAFSA form. Income information certainly is a key. There's a form that's called a verification form that in just a few weeks we will be sending to students who have been selected for verification. The verification form will ask for things like simple things, the names and ages of household members, if you have a sibling enrolled in college concurrently, that kind of thing. Please do not allow a notice that you've been selected for review or verification to put you into a tailspin. It is sincerely a random sampling and it's not a painful process. So trust me when I tell you that we will work you through that entire process in the eventuality that you're selected for review. It is honestly and sincerely not a big deal. And other schools, other colleges will ask the same of you. So that being said, I think we can move to the question and answer period. And while you're developing your questions on your screen, what I'd like to show you is the contact information for your student financial services counselor. So much like you were assigned a particular admissions counselor to work you through that process, this is the individual who will work with you, not just through your freshman year journey, but through each of your 4, or in the case of 5 or 6.5 year programs, the entire academic career. So this is a person you should definitely get to know well. Excellent. Okay, any questions?
Great, Jane. Yes, we do have several questions here, so we'll do our best to get through some of them. You mentioned different ways that students can look for external scholarships like FastWeb, but we're also wondering if there are other named scholarships or scholarships available once a student already starts. So for instance, they are in their sophomore year and now maybe there's other internal scholarships that might be available to them. If you could just address that, that'd be really good.
Christy, how about you take a shot at that one?
Absolutely. So we do offer a bunch of different types of endowed and trust scholarships through Wilkes that are from donors. So we're so happy that we have this available to students. There is no application process. We tried to make it as easy as possible for the student. We will do all the matching up for the criteria. So we'll match up the major, we'll match up if it's extracurriculars, we'll reach out to different departments if we need to. So if you are awarded one of those scholarships, you'll be notified by email. But there's tons of opportunities for those.
Great, thank you, Christy. We also had a question about the student loans and the studentloan.gov website. When you create an account for that, do you use your Wilkes login or is it an entire separate account for yourself?
It's the same account that you used to log into your FAFSA to complete and create your FAFSA form. Identical.
All right, great. And do the loans help to build a student's credit? So does this go towards building their credit profile once they take out student loans?
Actually, no, not on the front end. Now, once the student goes into repayment, assuming they make those consecutive timely payments, then your credit rating is impacted in a very good way.
Very good. We also had a question about whether or not students pay taxes on work study. If they're a work study student and they have a paying job on campus, how does taxes work?
Yes, unfortunately. The fact that this is a federal work study program does not allow you to escape from the Internal Revenue Service. Taxes are taken out of a student's paycheck for state and federal. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I'll mention is an extension of that comment, though. When you file your following year's FAFSA, the income earned from work study is ignored when we determine eligibility for the following year's financial aid. Meaning, if you're making money at working at Walmart, those earnings could potentially impact eligibility for financial aid for subsequent years, not necessarily the next year, but the year after that. That's not the case with work study. Now, obviously, because most of the work studies pay minimum wage, it's to your financial advantage if an off-campus employee is willing to hire you and pay you better than minimum wage. But that one benefit of work study earnings versus non-work study earnings can be reflected in future financial aid eligibility. Now, very honestly, the first 6,100 of a student's earnings are ignored anyway. So unless you're an extremely, extremely hard worker who's also taking a full college level workload, course load, it's unlikely that income is going to impact your future aid, but plant it away.
Great, thank you so much. We've got a few questions about veteran affairs. So who do we contact if we have questions about veteran benefits? And also if you could talk a little bit about the Yellow Ribbon program at Wilkes.
Certainly. Yeah, and I'm sorry that I neglected to mention this individual in our contact us list. There is an expert housed within the Student Financial Services Department. He's an assistant director, actually. His name is Anthony Narrow, N-A-R-O, and much like our email addresses are first name dot last name, anthony.narrow@wilkes.edu is the contact person. Wilkes is a participant in the Yellow Ribbon program. Actually, one of the very first participants when the program was first established roughly 8-9 years or so ago. So what Yellow Ribbon participation means is that Wilkes will essentially do a portion of a match of veterans benefits. Now, Tony knows the specifics, the ins and outs, the average values of Yellow Ribbon, et cetera. But we are most definitely a proud participant in the Yellow Ribbon program.
I just pulled up his phone number too. His phone number, so this would be his direct contact, is 570-408-3810.
Thank you, Christy.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that books are part of the payment when you're estimating payment. Do we have an estimated price of books per semester that they can try to factor into their, when they're looking at all their annual costs?
We factor in $800 per semester for books and supplies. So that includes both, if you needed supplies beyond the books. So if you needed a laptop, things like that. Now we do offer a book voucher, and that is through our bursar's office, and that opens up about 2 weeks before the start of the semester. And you could request it as long as there's an anticipated credit on your account. And what that will allow you to do is take your Wilkes ID and go down to the Barnes & Noble bookstore and pick up your books right from there, and you don't need cash or anything, and they would go to your account on Wilkes on the portal.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see, we have just a few other questions. I just want to make sure I understand the question, but are you able to do estimated financial aid packages? I think mostly we need the FAFSA, we need somebody's FAFSA in order to deliver the official financial aid package for sure. Usually you'll get the merit benefit at the time of admission, and then once the financial aid office has your FAFSA information, they will put together a full financial package for you. But do you ever do any estimated packages, be able to tell a family, maybe using the cost calculator? Maybe you have a little more to say to that.
Yes. Yeah, actually, Kishan made a good point. Every college in the country that receives federal financial aid is obliged to post on some spot on their website what's commonly called a net price calculator. And it's essentially exactly what the student has requested. If you were to key in a skeleton of your academic and your financial information through the net price calculator, you're able to get an early estimate, not just of Wilkes' academic merit awards, but also our need-based awards, including any state or federal grant money that a student could potentially also qualify for. Now, as I mentioned, schools call this tool a different thing on their sites, but most commonly net price calculator. It has to be placed very prominently on the website under the financial aid tab. So that's the best spot. Now, if there are odd things involved in your family income, or maybe even in your household information that you think are not very well addressed in a net price calculator, then by all means, any one of us in the financial aid office could do a hand calculation of eligibility with just a little bit of information.
Great, Jane. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to go back to loans for just a second. If parents, the credit score for parents is a little shaky or not necessarily good, what are the options then for loans for students or students who may need additional support for loans?
Want to take a pass, Chris?
Sure. So for parents that don't have maybe the best credit or it's been impacted, the one thing with the Parent Plus loan, they could still apply for the loan to see if they're approved. If they're not approved, they do have a couple of options. One of them would be to dispute it and say, hey, I'm working on this with my credit. Can you take a pass at it? Another popular option that we see parents choose to do is to get an endorser, which is pretty much getting a cosigner on that Parent Plus loan to help you out. And that cosigner endorser person could be anybody. It does not have to be a relative. And the same thing with private loans. Anybody could be the cosigner, so you could take a pass at grandma, the neighbor, anybody could be the cosigner. So it doesn't need to be a parent. One last thing with the Parent Plus loan, if they did choose to take the denial for the loan, the student is eligible for an additional $4,000. It would go into the unsubsidized loan, and it would be split half between the fall and the spring.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's see. We had a question about certainly the full amount, the full payment for the year. So when the bills go out in July, is it only showing the fall semester, or does it show the full amount for the full year and they only have to pay for the fall semester? And then I will also add that in your financial aid award notice, it will break out the full cost and your bottom line actually from a semester and then total year balance. But we're more curious about if the bill, how the bill looks when they get that.
It's definitely a half fall, half spring.
Okay. Yeah. So they'll only see half, and then they can anticipate that that'll just be recreated again in the same way in the spring.
Yeah, typically we say what your bounce would be for the fall is around what your bounce is going to be for the spring. What could fluctuate with that is lab fees and course fees.
Okay, good. And when are financial aid packets sent out? Again, we would just need your admission to the university and then your FAFSA. If you're not planning to file a FAFSA, that's really helpful information for us to know, because then we'll just package you with what we have from the merit standpoint. And I mean, you guys can elaborate on that, but the key really is the FAFSA. Once that's submitted to us, once you chose Wilkes to send that information to, then our financial aid office pulls all of that together. And usually I would say within a week, we have a week turnaround, as long as we got the information, that we're putting that package out to you in the mail. And then we also upload it to your admissions portal, and you can sign in and see your award notice right there. Christy, you can add some more if you'd like to that.
Yeah, so we get packages out at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And like Kishan mentioned, they are uploaded onto the portal within a day or two of when it's done. So if we package on a Tuesday, by Wednesday afternoon, they'll be available to you. It comes in the mail, and then we also email them from our office, from our financial aid email address.
The earliest, just as a point of reference, that we're typically able to get our first wave of reviews out is November, late November of the student's senior year in high school. The reason for that is we need to have some sense of what educational expenses will be for the following academic year. Typically, we don't know that until that point in time.
Wonderful, thank you. So if we don't have your information, we encourage you to please submit that, because we want to certainly put the best offer in front of you and give you as much as possible. And the more information we have about you, the better able we are to do that for you.
We absolutely.
We had a question.
Oh, sorry, Kitchen. I was just going to give our school code out. If you haven't, we absolutely encourage you to file the FAFSA. If you've done it already and you just have not included Wilkes, you could go in and make a correction. Our school code is 003394. Thank you.
Great, great. And I was wondering if either of you could talk about the Dependent Education Assistance Program, Chapter 35. Wondering if there's a particular contact in your office for somebody who has questions about that.
Anthony Naro.
There you go.
The guru.
Great. And any information about the My CAA scholarship for military benefits, military spouses? Do we work with that program? Are you aware of that?
Okay. You know, actually, I am not certain. I've heard of the program, but I don't know unequivocally that we participate. I would suspect that we do, because we leave no stone unturned when we talk about dollars available to veterans. But yeah, Anthony Naro is again the contact.
Yeah, he might be the one to certainly have the details on that, or programs that are similar to that for sure. So we encourage you to reach out.
Anthony's going to be a busy man tomorrow, I can tell.
Yes, anything you need, Anthony. No. There's a whole team of counselors ready to assist you, and email certainly works. We also still have the option for you to schedule an appointment, and they can do video conferencing with you, just like we're doing right now. One-on-one, we can do screen shares if you need help with different parts of filling out forms, or if you get stuck somewhere. So you can certainly sign up for one of those on our wilkes.edu/experience page and sign up for a time slot. They're ready, but they're also certainly willing and live to answer emails as they go and call phone calls as well. We are working every day, even though we're off campus right now. Is there anything else that Christy or Jane you'd like to put out there? I know we're finishing up our time here. Any other comments or words of wisdom as they start transitioning to being Wilkes students?
I guess the only thing that I'd want to mention is please use us, avail yourselves of our expertise and our experience. Know that, you know, despite the unusual times in which we operate, it is, you know, full steam ahead for us. You know, business as usual. So use us.
Yeah, absolutely. Never hesitate to reach out, or if you think you have a goofy question, no question is ever goofy. So please email us or call us. We don't want you to sit there and wonder what I should be doing, or what, am I doing this right? Am I doing it wrong? We're here to help you. So please reach out.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for your time today. This was really informative. We really appreciate you taking the time, and there was so much information that was put out there today, and so we are recording the session, and we'll make sure that our participants or email the link to the recording so that you can access it anytime and get access to the information if you need a refresher for any of this. So be on the lookout for that email, and we'll make sure we'll get it up. Also, we still have plenty to go for the rest of the week. There's lots to do. Tomorrow, we will be hosting 18 different academic sessions with our faculty from those particular areas. Each of those sessions have their own unique login, and you'll get instructions if you're registered for those. You'll get instructions for logging in. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then we also have an opportunity for admitted students to reach out and talk to one another and engage with each other tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And we're ending the whole virtual week on May 1st with our Blue and Gold Day. We certainly hope that you'll participate. I know I'll be wearing blue and gold, and I'm going to make sure that Jane and Christy are also wearing their blue and gold on Friday, May 1st. Take a selfie and make sure you tag us with hashtag WilkesU. And we look forward to seeing your selfies, and we will talk to you very soon. So thank you again so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you so much,
Bye
everyone.
now.